How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. Today we're discussing Clarke Schmidt, a young pitcher for this Yankee team that could have a pretty nice impact in 2023 and beyond. Of course, the Yankees expect to let Jameson Taillon go. So he would, serve as that number 5 pitcher. That's what he kind of served as in 2022. So there is an opening there, right? Domingo Germán, maybe he ends up filling that role. Maybe the Yankees go out and bring somebody in. But there's a good argument to make that maybe Clarke Schmidt should be a starting level pitcher next year. He has some good stuff, had some moments where he got beat up a little bit. But ultimately, I think that he has good quality pitches and a nice repertoire. So, I know Ryan has a lot of information to give you guys in terms of what he thinks, if he should be more of a bullpen guy, or maybe a back end starting pitcher, or maybe the different roles the Yankees could utilize him in moving forward. But he's a nice little piece that, doesn't really get enough attention, I would say. We don't really speak about him a lot. Not a lot of people really speak about him at all. So I think it's nice to give him some of that credit and attention that maybe he will get more of in 2023, depending on what his role will be, Ryan. But, when you're looking at Clarke Schmidt, what are your thoughts about him and how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I look at Clarke Schmidt, as someone that I'm very curious about for the 2023 season. As you mentioned, the Yankees currently don't have a fifth starter penciled in like a Jameson Taillon. He's a free agent. You're going to look at Domingo Germán and Clarke Schmidt as the two guys who are going to be battling for that fifth spot right now, unless the Yankees are to go out and acquire another starting pitcher. But even if the Yankees do acquire another starter, or even if, Germán wins the fifth starter job, Clarke Schmidt is going to get starts in 2023, right? We know the Yankees are not going, you don't have 5 starters that you pencil in and they make all 30 starts, right? That's just not baseball. But Clarke Schmidt is someone that, bullpen role, rotation role, I really am excited to see how he does. His slider is his best pitch. It's become his primary pitch. He's started to use it like you would a fastball, in the sense of, this is my best pitch. Go out and try to hit it. I think it's the pitch that I look at as, the key for Schmidt's success. I think, relying a little bit less on his fastballs was a good thing for him. I don't think of his fastballs as great pitches. I look at them as, kind of get me over pitches, show pitches to help him sequence through different counts. So, last season, Schmidt's stuff plus was a 109.7, which is really strong. That's one of the better marks in baseball, considering he was a starter and a reliever. It's pretty good. And, one thing I really like about Clarke Schmidt was down the stretch, I felt like there were less walks. He did end up with a 9.7% walk rate, which isn't great. But as the season progressed, he's walked fewer guys. He struck out more guys. And, you want to see that strikeout to walk rate go up throughout a season, especially for a young guy. 26 isn't necessarily prospect young, but it is still his first full major league season, which I think a lot of people need to kind of take into account here. In his first full major league season, he put up a 3.12 ERA with a 3.60 FIP, and all of his peripherals were under 4. I think that's a great start for your first season. I think that's a great, that's a good foundation to set. If this is what Clarke Schmidt is out of the bullpen, which is a 3.12 ERA guy, the Yankees are going to love having him out of the bullpen. As a spot starter occasionally, he's a very versatile arm. I know he struggled in the postseason, and that definitely hurt a lot of his stock. And whether it was fair to put him in those spots or not is a completely different discussion. But Clarke Schmidt is someone that I look at, the stuff is there. The breaking balls are great. The fastballs need work, right? He needs to figure, not that he needs to, but it would greatly benefit him to figure out, either straighten out the 4-seamer, get more ride on it, or with his sinker, lean on it a little bit more, try to get more ground balls, try to keep the ball on the ground a little bit more. I look at a 42.1% ground ball rate and I say that's not bad, but I would like to see that number go up next year. I would like to see him, close to that 50% total, because if you look at a strikeout to walk rate of roughly 15-16% with a ground ball percentage of roughly 48-49%, you're going to get an ERA that's well under 4 and a sustainable ERA under 4, and one that should bode well in the postseason. That's something I think Schmidt kind of struggled with. He didn't have a great strikeout to walk rate. He wasn't the best at getting ground balls. It was very much league average. And I think in the postseason, that could have played to his detriment, because in the postseason setting, you would have liked to really see Clarke Schmidt be able to go out and get a little more ground balls, keep the ball on the ground, prevent the Astros from elevating and hitting some home runs. So, it's a work in progress. This is going to be his second full season. I would like to see him get an opportunity to make the rotation, but at the same time, I don't want to bank on him to be a starter for a full season just because of the window the Yankees are in contention-wise. But it wouldn't be that bad. He's at least going to be a reliever in this bullpen. I think he's going to play a huge role for this team in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the way that they've changed his pitch repertoire from 2021 to 2020. They really saw a big increase in slider usage. Use it 18% 2021, all the way up to 38% last season. Curveball dropped from 29% to about 18%. So clearly, they're still trying to figure out what his best pitches are. They're still trying to figure out how to mix in his repertoire, and he has some pretty good pitches across the board. It's just a matter of like what's working for him. His slider is really good, right? 183 batting average against, 282 slugging, 41% whiff rate with a 26% put away rate. You're not going to find, a much better slider than that. I mean, he throws it about 38% of the time. I expect that to settle in right around there, if not increase next year. His sinker is okay. Batters hit 311 against it. As you said, you kind of want to see a little bit more ground ball production from that, and increasing those easy double plays and whatnot. But ultimately, this is a pitcher with really good quality stuff. I think it's more so just giving him more opportunities. He only pitched 57, almost 53 innings this past season. I think he could be someone that maybe gets into the 80 range. If you're going to use him as a starter, if you're going to use him as a bullpen arm, it depends. It's kind of situational because Domingo Germán, he's not really a bullpen arm. He's more of a starter. So I'm really curious to see if the Yankees go out and find another starting pitcher to bring in. Because if they do, you have to imagine Clarke Schmidt kind of maintains that bullpen role. But Ryan, do you think that the Yankees try to make a splash or bring in another pitcher? I know we've seen them connected to Justin Verlander. A lot of people are writing about Carlos Rodon, which I think is not realistic, but Verlander maybe on a shorter years, higher money type of deal could make sense. I don't think it happens unless Judge walks personally, but end of the day, do you think they bring in someone who's going to replace Tyone in his numbers? Really good first half, tough second half. Don't really trust him in the postseason type of guy. How do you think they kind of attack this back end of the rotation? Because you got Frankie Montas, you have Nestor, you got Severino, you got Garrett Cole, got some really talented guys in that bullpen, but maybe just don't have a number 5. Do you think they bring someone in to compete there?
Yeah, so I think, another name that was floated out was Pablo Lopez. And, the Yankees are going to be connected to starters all offseason. And, a lot of people are going to mention, yes, this team does need bats. Don't get me wrong. I do think this team is a team that needs more offense. Don't get me wrong. But, the Yankees could definitely use a fifth starter. I do like Clarke Schmidt. I really do. I think he is a very talented arm. But you can never have enough quality pitching. Montas had a shoulder injury last year. That's a little concerning, right? Severino didn't make 20 starts last year. Cortez, he also hit the IL, right? So, the only starter you have penciled in who you not guarantee, but you feel very confident in saying he's going to make all 30 of his starts next year or 30 plus starts is Garrett Cole, right? So, the Yankees could definitely use a fifth starter, and Schmidt's going to get his reps, right? Schmidt is going to get a chance to start, be in a bullpen role, whatever it may be. Remember, Severino and Montas are both free agents after the end of next season, unless the Yankees are to extend one of the two, which I don't see a Montas extension at this point. I think they'd like to see what they have from him first. And then Severino, I could see one, but if you're Severino, I guess you want to test the market at this point. You already took one extension. Why not, see what you can get, after if he goes out and dominates next year, makes 30 starts, sub 3 ERA, kind of prime Severino type stuff, which I think he can get to. He's going to want to test the open market. He's going to command a lot of money. So, Clarke Schmidt's going to have a chance to continue to audition himself. I know that it's tough to say, hey, you're 27, but we're still not sure if we're going to make you a starter or not. But sometimes late bloomers that's what they are, right? Sometimes our pitchers are late bloomers. Our pitchers take a while to develop. Schmidt's been hampered by injuries. As you said, there are still things you can work on with him. We could still see, maybe an increase in the slider usage. We can still see perhaps, better usage of the sinker, right? Would it be, he's still trying to work on a changeup. There are things that Clarke Schmidt is still attempting to do, or Clarke Schmidt still has to do. And we haven't reached the point where the book is closed on him. Even with his velocity, it was something that fluctuated a lot during the season. You would see outings where he was, sitting 95, 96, and he would have some outings where he's sitting like 93, some outings where he's, hitting 92 on his fastball. So perhaps a healthy off season after a full season of work could do him wonders in terms of stabilizing his velocity. If he's sitting 95 miles an hour with his sinker, right, that's going to generate more rolling over. You're going to see guys, late on the pitch, you throw it down and in, the guys are going to break bats, right? That'll happen more often than with a 93 mile per hour sinker with the same movement. And then even the slider, right? Like, it has a good amount of horizontal break, and it's thrown at nearly 87 miles per hour. It's a pretty unique slider. Typically you see more of those sweepier sliders thrown with lower velocities, lower 80s, and then those harder sliders, gyro sliders thrown at, 86, 87, 88 miles an hour, tend to have very little vertical or very little horizontal movement at all. So Schmidt's got a unique slider. So that's interesting, right? So I'm curious to see how they use him next year. I do project him to start out in the bullpen. I would love to see him, dominate in spring training, have a vast increase in his stuff, and, win out a starting job. That would mean the Yankees don't have to pour resources into their pitching, and they perhaps allocate more on the offense. But I think that's hard to expect. That's a big load to put on Clarke Schmidt. But I think Yankee fans should just be excited about the prospect of him being a versatile arm for this team, someone who covers a lot of depth for the Yankees in the rotation, and then provides a lot of value out of the bullpen. I'm just very excited to see how he can do shuttling through roles, not having to go up and down the minors as much, not being, someone that's a back end reliever guy getting mop up innings. I think the Yankees are going to try to make him either a high leverage guy or potentially, start grooming him to be a starter full time.
Yeah, look, I don't think he's ever going to be Luis Severino, most likely. I don't think that he has that type of potential, but I think it would take a lot. I think Severino bouncing back from all the injuries and Tommy John surgery and doing what he did this past season is just a testament to the type of guy he is. And you're right, he's going to get a lot of money if he dominates this year. And I think he's primed to, coming off that full season of work, really showing some good stuff. I think he builds on that and he becomes pretty high profile free agent. If I was the Yankees, I'd be like trying to lock him up right now to more years because, that probably would benefit them. But he probably wants to take it another season and not risk it. But ultimately, this team, they have a lot of talent, a lot of good young talent. It's just a matter of, are they going to rise to the occasion? How are they going to use them? We're talking not just Clarke Schmidt. You're talking Marinaccio. You're talking Greg Weiss. You're talking Volpe. Talking Peraza, Oswaldo Cabrera. There is a ton of young players on this team that we just don't know what the role is going to be just yet. But we do know that they're going to be heavily used. It's just a matter of when, how, and why. So I'm curious to see what they do with Clarke Schmidt. Definitely a really intriguing young player for this team that has a lot of potential, untapped that is. But really excited to see how the Yankees kind of pursue the future here. But guys, love your perspectives below on Clarke Schmidt specifically, how you think they should use him as a starter, as a bullpen arm. Always curious to hear your perspectives, narratives, and opinions. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.